Good morning, all. Welcome to the first class of the subject data structures. I am sure you are all well aware that this is one of the most important subjects for your degree, and I'm sure you are well prepared and eager to learn this subject in the best possible manner from all angles of your degree, from industry as well as academic angles. You must remember that this is the most important subject viewpoints of both ways. So you must prepare well for this, that this is most important and it will be helpful throughout your degree to understand a lot of different subjects. Well, the book which we will be following for this subject is authored by two famous renowned authors of this area, Horowitz and Sahani, we normally call them. And the title of the book is Fundamentals of Data Structures. In C language, we will be practicing. So the book is also available with the same title. And we will be following this book throughout the semester. You must be aware of the corresponding publisher also. That is the normally needed whenever you are referring to any book. So University Press is the publisher name from where you will refer to this book. So knowing this now, and already said that this is one of the most important subject of your degree, and you are going to study algorithms later. Collectively, this is called as a data structure and algorithms domain. And this collectively becomes a major chunk of your background, especially those who want to do any work related to computing and computer related to algorithmic or hardcore system oriented or application oriented domain. So this is going to be really very important for all of you. I'm sure all of you have done C programming in the previous semester, but some of you might not be so good in your programming and might not be very comfortable in that, but don't worry. Even if you have not practiced well earlier, now you have the time to do that. What we are going to study in this subject is primarily organization of the data and their operations. So we have the corresponding subject to be given as an overview in form of various data structures, which are predefined data structures, and corresponding operations which are permitted on them. What does that mean? Primarily, for example, all of you are well aware about arrays. So array is one specific organization of the data. For example, when you declare int ARR10 or int ARR, let's say 100, so what you have got is effectively one standard storage, a standard storage having a linear contiguous memory of 100 integers, and it is a contiguous memory in the memory locations where you have got 100 integers stored possible. So this is the corresponding storage which you get once you declare an array. And so this is what we mean by corresponding storage, availability, or organization of the data. What additional you get is primarily operations. Operations, what you primarily use in case of array is accessing an individual element. For example, you write ARR5. Say you assign it to A equal to ARR5, etc., etc. Or other operation you normally do is storing some value on an individual element. Again, what you did in this case is something like ARR, let's say 10 equal to some value 50. So primarily, these are the two operations which we are doing very frequently, and it might not be that always you will be doing these operations. So you will be doing some more operations also, but more or less, these are going to be the primary operations. And if you see, most of your work will revolve around these operations. So whatever programming you are on arrays you have done has been revolving around these operations. One thing more which you must remember in such situations is that at any stage, if you are referring to some element, let's say A equal to A_R 100, it is incorrect. Never do that, because declared array of 100 actually means your elements are stored not at index 100. The index available are 0 to 99. So 100 index is illegal index for your access. This index is incorrect. It is beyond range. It is illegal for your program. Because in your memory, you have got up to 99 and 100 is never to be used. So just remember always. Now, having said that, so primarily I say array is also one data structure. Similarly, you have some more data structures which you are going to study this semester. For example, we are going to study stack, we are going to study queue, we are going to study linked list, we are going to study trees, we are going to have a look over graphs and something similar to that. So all these are standard data structures, and for all of these we will understand their storage or organization, and we will also talk of the allowed operations and their standard working. So when I say allowed operations, for each of them there are predefined set of operations which are allowed to be done on these, and they will be specifically implemented in certain particular manner. So we will be implementing all these throughout the semester, and we will be doing coding of all these, and for all operations, and for some of these using these data structures to solve certain predefined problems as well. So this is going to be the total subject as an overview. Having understood that, let me also talk today a brief about what is going to be our focus during the programming. Till now you have done very elementary programming. Till now you have understood basically C programming. For initial few weeks, what we will be needing is primarily arrays, loops, and control statements. I'll say loops oblique control statement, because if is not a loop. So, but I say we will need if, switch, etc. So loops and control statements, arrays, functions, and structures. Primarily, for initial 3-4 weeks, this much knowledge will be sufficient. So those who have done programming through these should be knowing all this. If you are not remembering that, you have the time to revise that. And of course, through this lectures, etc., we will be covering all this. So I'll be systematically teaching them. So later, we will also require pointers also. And I will be also giving an overview of the pointers for your discussions, so that will be helpful to you in the understanding. So revise all these concepts. You have a time. Don't fear if you have not done good programming till now. We will be systematically understanding and doing programming. So till now you did programming and finding the results, but now you will do better programming, or I will say good programming, from industry perspective also. And that will be the main focus for us. So you should learn good habits of doing good programming, and your focus will be always to follow the standard good practices, even if we are writing a small code. Although our code will be small, but we will be using all good practices which are normally followed in industry. Currently, we will be taking 4 main aspects during our this semester. First, of course, the correctness of your program. So I will say during programming, what you are going to focus more. Correctness of the program is always to be ensured. And I will say correct output to come for valid inputs at least. Of course, ideally, I should get the output correct for all situations, and for invalid situations, for special situations also, it should not change. Let me just focus. This focus is disturbing. So I'll focus it, and maybe I'll just switch off the autofocus so that it doesn't again and again disturb. Fine. So for valid input, at least the correct output must come. Of course, later we will be also targeting to have the program to work well for invalid situations also. That will mean for exceptional, for special cases, or exceptional inputs, invalid inputs, etc., etc. What does that mean? I'll give an example. For example, you are talking of calculating factorial of a number. Now, factorial of a number, of course, you might have tested it to work for range, let's say 1 to 8, 9, you must have done. What if I give -1? Will my program work correctly or not? Is -1's factorial well defined or not? If defined that -1 doesn't have a factorial, I should get accordingly the correct message. For 0, whether I will get correct value or I will get 0 returned, whether I will get factorial for the 0 as 1 or not. Maybe similarly, if I try for, let's say, 99 or 999's factorial, will I get correct output or not? You might say it is out of range. But is my program handling all this or not? All those things come under special, exceptional, or invalid inputs. So initially, our focus will not be this, but at least for valid inputs, my program must give correct output. That will be my first focus. Second focus, along with correctness, we will never compromise on modularity. What does modularity mean? I will explain. Third is readability. And fourth is indentation. To be precise, efficiency at the cost of above will never be targeted. At the cost of modularity or readability will not be targeted. Of course, indentation doesn't get affected by this process. So I'm saying efficiency at the cost of modularity or readability will not be desirable at all. So our focus will remain on these aspects. Of course, some of you might not be aware that what do we mean by modularity, what do you mean by readability. So I will touch upon each of these. Modularity. When I say modularity, it simply means that I have to use modular programming. So first aspect of modularity means decomposing the program into multiple modules. So my program should never be just written as a program consisting of a main and everything in main, but it should be consisting into proper modules. Now this proper word will have a different understanding, and with time it will be understood. But modules is what we need in minimum. In case of a C, modules mainly mean functions. So I will say my program must have been divided into multiple functions. How? We will understand what should be a function and what should not be. In general, a function means it should have internal logic to be functionally cohesive. Again, Some big words being used here. What do we mean functionally cohesive? We will understand later, but I will just give you an example and it will be more clear. So I say, when I write a function, primarily the function should be performing one and exactly one work. But what will we mean by one work, we will understand. And the thumb rule to understand will be that each function should be reusable to the maximum extent. I'll explain again this just now. And the thumb rule for each function is minimum coupling and maximum cohesion. It's a software engineering principle which you will study in the next semester, and you will follow this rule throughout the industry. So software engineering is one subject which you will study in the coming semester, and all these things you will study in detail. But what it means is minimum coupling, meaning the interdependency means outside the function, interdependency or connectivity should be minimal. And cohesion means logic internally, internal variables plus code should be strongly bonded to each other. So this is what is going to be the key focus of this rule. Primarily through this process, what we get is reusability. Reusability means I will be able to take this module into other functions or other programs which require similar kind of a functionality. For example, say you have developed a program into other programs. For example, you have written a code or a module for sorting. Now, sorting module you have done, so it arranges the data into into ascending or descending order. Now, this could be needed in multiple programs. Can I just copy paste this and use there? And if it works well without any changes needed, it is highly reusable. And if I have no changes needed, I will say this is the best module and I can directly use anywhere. But of course, if it requires changes, means probably it requires some adjustment. The advantages of modularity is not just reusability, it also helps in maintainability, it also helps in testability, it also helps in managing the software better. Because ultimately in industry, my software is going to be of 20,000 lines or maybe 50,000 lines. Not even a single function or not even a single user will be able to maintain that. So there will be a team of maybe 30, 40 people or maybe 5 to 20, 30 people doing this. They are the developers. So if they are maintaining their individual modules well, all that will become much more easy to handle. Of course, all these things you will study in software engineering in more detail, but knowing these facts, we will ensure that even for our small codes, we will follow these principles. Even if I am writing a code of 50 lines, or even if I am writing a code of 30 lines, 30 lines will also be modular and reusable with that functionality. So this is what we are going to focus always. The other aspect being readability. So readability, what does that mean? Of course, you can probably understand through the word readable. Like if I write something on paper, it should be readable, but that probably means your clear writing also. We are typing the code, so typing or writing is already clear. There is no language, no writing or poor handwriting issues. So it's not about handwriting. It means understanding the code by reading it. So is my code good enough by reading it? Can it be understood without any explanation? I mean, code should be self-explanatory. It means by reading your program, logic should be understood and you need not explain. A student has written, I come, or your friend sees that code. Can I understand your code just by reading that? Of course, that requires to use meaningful variable names. It also requires your functions and their names also. So functionals to be made, modules to be made, and their names also to be meaningful. And functions must have proper parameters. And proper return type. In fact, this aspect is very important for modularity aspect also. Modularity will be actually ensured by making your function and proper parameters and proper return type. So function without parameters or return type is incomplete function, not the proper modular function. So we will ensure this. But their names, etc., parameters, etc., all to be meaningful, that will add to readability. Secondly, so meaningful variable names, functions to be meaningful naming, etc. That is one aspect. Third aspect being the code or the logic statements not to be complex. They should be appearing easy, simple, not complex, and common sense based. And common logic based or common sense based. Whatever common logic we know to work on that, that should have been followed normally. Otherwise, you should have comments for special logics. All this becomes readability. For example, I know that factorial calculation, I know I will be writing something like factorial of something as some value multiplied by I, and I should vary 1 to n or 2 to n. So this becomes an obvious, straight away, simple logic. If I am following this logic, code is easy to understand. But if unnecessarily I make some complex logic, that will compromise in readability. And normally not should be done. If there is any special reason to do that change, then comments must be added. In general, this means readability. Of course, with example and with time, we will understand more. Then fourth aspect comes indentation. Indentation means while typing your code, you should be able to do proper indentation. Your code typing habit has to change. It's not that before you run the code and then you will do the indentation. It must be done during typing your code. Statements which are at the same level, they should be indented at the same place, are typed at the same place, typed at the same position or same column of your irrespective rows, and statements which are part of some outside statement, part of a block, are shifted towards right by certain 3-4 spaces. On the right side by 3 to 4 spaces. What does that mean? I will just show an example. For example, I write main. Fine, main starts with this braces. Now, all statements are part of a main, so they must be typed. Typed, I am again stressing. Immediately, you should have a habit that you go by 3 to 4 spaces on the right, and all statements which are part of main are typed like this. Here you write a for loop. So the statements which are part of for loop are further written, shifted by few spaces. As soon as for loop over, you come back to the same level, and the next statement you write here at the same level. Now you have if statement, it has a single statement, again shifted and ideally shifted and at the same place where you have been doing that indentation. After S3, again you come back. Even if you have else, you will write here else. Within else, you have multiple statements. So all those will be shifted here. Here again, you have a while loop. So while loop, again, you have a statement here. All those shifted. And like this, as soon as over, at the same level, any more statement which is a part of else but not part of while at this level, else over. Again, you have some printf, scanf, etc., which are part of main, again like this, and then finally your main ends. So this is what we mean by indentation. Again, this is useful because your logical error will be possibly corrected and caught in this. For finding your logical errors, you will be able to help take this advantage and use this. So once program works well, then if you do indentation, it is not worth to try at that stage. So it must be done when you are developing your code. It must become your habit of indentation, and you must always follow this from day one. All these will be demonstrated by giving you one simple problem. I'm giving you to try and practice or write a code. Like I give you a problem that write a program. Whatever you understand out of this, you will be trying to do, and then we will discuss what we will do. So I say write a program in C to find occurrence of a given substring in a string. What does that mean? I'm saying, for example, I give a data, let's say I write some word NIKHIL, this is my main string, and I'm searching, let's say, for KHI. Then I say, if you see carefully, Nikhil will be stored like this into my array of characters. So this is at index 0. Ideally, null character will be stored here. And I say KHI means this is present at index 2 onwards. So my output should tell me that at index 2 onwards, the string is present. But if, let's say, I was searching for string KHILA, then I should say not present. So this is what I want you to try. I'm just stopping here and giving a pause. I'm giving you 5-10 minutes to try and write this code, and then we will discuss how good or how not good code you wrote and what could have been better practices. And via that, I will also talk of your modularity, your readability, your indentation, correctness, etc., etc. So all those aspects we will talk, and you can try this code, and then we will see by following these principles, your code becomes much more useful, easy, as well as simple, and it will be good in many aspects. So I'm giving you time. Those who want to practice or those who are seeing this video, they should pause the video here and try to write the code itself. In order to save time, I am assuming that now you have written the code. You can now see what kind of a code you wrote, and then I will be talking of some code discussions. Let's assume you did something and now you have typed the code. So I'm showing you one code which is, let's say, written by some of you in one or other way. So I assume this is a code written in some way, which probably does the work which I said. For example, if I execute it and I say NIKHIL and I check for KHI, so I get substring is present at position 3. Maybe I said index 2 should come, but it prints message position 3. So all that is a part of correctness. So probably program gives correct output, but I'll not say it is correct because I wanted index to be printed and index 2 should have been printed. So this is one lesson about the correctness. Secondly, let's say I execute it as again the same thing and I check it for the corresponding KHILA and check whether this is working correct or not. So not a substring, I am getting the message. Similarly, I can test for some more. So probably code is working well, but I say this is not a good code at all. So now we will understand what I wanted to tell you. So this, I am showing you the code which you can have a look. And for example, this code, when you see, I'll just minimize this, take care. Yeah, so this is a code which is written. I'm reading a string. So reading a string can be via getS. Those who have never used, they can use getS or print scanf using %s. Similarly, then I have some while loop, some length used. I'm not trying to use any string comparison, etc. So I would like to have all coding to be done by you. Some k taken, a taken, and then if j equal to this, substring present at position like this, did this. Maybe I'll show you one more execution where I will show that if I have multiple strings present, this is giving some output through that also. Say if I'm searching for DEF in this bigger string, so DEF is present at 3 places and I'm getting this output. Although my program was silent, whether multiple places are to be printed or not, but fine. This program written by some of you could be something like this and gives output. Still, I say program is not good. So I'll explain what everything. For example, first thing, indentation. This is indented well. At least I can see that, yes, all statements which are part of main, okay. While I have this, if I have this, if again shifted, for shift. So indentation is being followed. Those who do not know, they can see that indentation means all these statements at the same level. Within while, all statements are part of while and they are up to this. They are all shifted. While's braces here to here. If again statements shifted, if statements shifted, for statements shifted, loop over, for came back to the same level, for over, if statement came back to the same level, main over. Readability. It's not readable good. Meaningful naming doesn't happen. A, B are not good names, etc. S, what for use, I can't understand. A is variable for first string. So I should name it as main string or str1. B, I should name it as maybe substring or str2 or small string, something or string to be searched. So search string, search str, any name like that. S, I don't know what for it is being used. I have read, I have a logic, while I less than n1, k equal to this, if something, some a equal to this, not equal to this, doing something, j equal to n2, I understand probably length is being checked. So some idea, but code is not readable. I don't understand what is this happening, I plus plus, j plus plus, yi equal to k plus 1, yj equal to 0. Code is not readable at all. So then I see here S being used, S being printed. So now I understand that S is being used to find all occurrences. If there is a multiple occurrence present, their positions will be printed. Here S is being saved. So S I understand. And then my name for the variable S should be index array or all those list of indexes, something like that. Even if it takes more time to type, you should have a proper variable name. And then some message coming. So readability is poor. Modularity. I can't see any function being used. Normally, a function must be there. Finding a substring could be a reusable function. I can require this function to be used somewhere else also. So ideally, I will prefer to have one function where this all is done in a module and module is reused. What does that mean? Let's have a look on this code. So the code can be more modular and it can be better readable from the angle when I take main string, substring. I read the main string. Maybe I can use getS or maybe I can use scanf %s and then I call find index. So I make a function, find index of the occurrence. Position. So I'm returning the position. Position should be index 0 can be a valid answer. So I say -1 returned will mean substring is not present, else substring starts at index this. Automatically come to know what should be the return type for index, find index function. Then I should write a find index function, return type obviously now to be integer, function parameters. Which parameters? Parameters should be chosen in a way that function is reusable and my variable naming dependency etc. doesn't happen. Like if I copy this function and take to another program, that program might not use the variable name as main str, sub str or something like that. Still the code should be copy paste and work as it is. So I should choose suitable functions so that the variable dependency gets handled within the function. Parameters I will use in that particular code by calling the find index function with the new parameters and the code should work. Logic. I can easily see that what should be my logic. So I'll just pause this and come to explaining of a logic for this. And then through that, it will be more clear to understand the logic also. So I say, now what should have been the logic? I say, my logic is simple. For example, I'm saying I have string A, B, C, D, E, F. And maybe I'm searching for string ABC itself. What does that mean? A, B, C, D, E, F is stored like this. ABC is stored like this. So what is my requirement? If I have my main string at 0th position, this I would like to check and compare with substring or your substring, whichever you have taken, maybe at index 0. If they match, I would like to check for 1. If they match, check for 2, etc., etc. So that will mean this has to be something as a main string I. And maybe I think to be compared with substring I. And then loop it for I. How many times? Obviously, how many times substring length is. But that will mean this will be working only if the substring was present from position 0 or index 0 onwards only. It might not be sufficient because I'm always using I at both places. If I'm searching for string DEF, it will be present from position 3 onwards. So it will mean effectively main str3 will match with sub str0 because this is also alphabet D, this is index 3, and this is index 0. So DEF will match at these positions. So this is how my logic should be made. That I understand that my logic is I will try to make a logic in a way that check whether substring is present from index, let's say initially I said 0 onwards, but it might not be present at index 0 always. If it is not present at 0 always, then obviously I will say later this to be checked from 1 onwards, later this to be checked from 2 onwards. So I will say in general index I onwards. And I to be obviously initially 0. Then 1 and so up to something, maybe up to the length or maybe something before the length. For example, my string has 6 characters. Should I check from 0 to 5? Because my length was 5, length was 6. So should I check up to 5 or should I check something before that? I will decide. But ultimately it means I need a loop for variable I to check whether substring is present from this or not. So I need probably a for loop. And now in this case, because I need a regular loop, so for loop is a better loop than while, etc. I will say in this, I want to check what? That means I want to check my main string I onwards is equal to substring 0 onwards. How to check this? So this is to be checked multiple times. So substring present or not. Again, I require many characters to be checked. How many characters to be checked? I know. I have to check it for substring length times. So this immediately gives me a hint that I can probably use another loop here. So probably I have to loop here for substring length times, and this variable will be, let's say, J variable based loop, and my target should be something to check where main string I onwards is checked. So I have to play with I, and maybe I'll take extra variable. I can take, let's say, some variable k equal to I, later say it I plus 1, later say it I plus 2, later say it I plus 3, etc., etc., versus substring J onwards. And J obviously will be always 0 onwards. So this loop directly can work. So I can take K in these terms. Why I am not incrementing I directly here? Because each time I have to start with a new I, and that outer loop will tell a new I. So internally, I should take a separate variable, and maybe all I can do something, play with the I, and then maybe K can be incremented. I can have a K plus plus, etc., or K equal to I plus something, and accordingly I can make. So I have given you a rough idea how to make the logic for this. And once you try to do that logic, you will be able to implement. Having said that, I will give again here a pause and ask you, all of you, to try to write the code of your own. Using this logic, pause this video, try to write your own code and solve it. You will be feeling somewhat comfortable to write a program like this. Of course, that might not be the best program, which probably you might not make in the first attempt. If you are not good in programming, you might find some more difficulty. So spend time, 5-10 minutes, and do that coding of your own. Later, I will show you another good code which is equivalent to this, and it will have a lot of advantages. So poor code we have already seen, partial code I have already shown to you, and then I will show you a good code now. So this is a poor code we have already seen, and partial code I have shown, and then now I'm asking you to write your codes. Once you have completed, or give 10-15 minutes, nobody stops you. Once you have done, then compare your code with the code I am showing now. So I assume that you have spent 10 minutes and now I show you the correct code or a good code. Of course, this is not the best code. You can still write even a better code than this. But what I'll write is, I have written here, position was found. This is the same partial logic. So I have passed two parameters, main string and substring. Length I didn't pass because length I can calculate directly in the function. If I calculate directly in the function, it helps me in reducing parameters. So why should I have 4 parameters when 2 parameters can work? Again, variable name here was with main underscore str, but here it could be without underscore also. The advantage being this function can be directly copied and used anywhere, and there I have some global variables or main variables named to be str1, str2, or name1, name2, char1, char2, whatever variable names are, they will be passed as parameters, and this function need not be changed. This function is copy pastable directly. Now, the way I saw code told was that I need a code from I equal to 0 to maybe length 1. But probably you can think whether I should go up to length 1 minus 1 or before that. You can test that, think over that. Second loop, I definitely need to go from 0 to length 2 minus 1 directly. And I can straight away check if a main string is not equal to substring, I will stop. As soon as one character doesn't match, I can conclude that the matching was incorrect. But if one character matched, doesn't mean that the string was present. So one character match will not ensure that the character matched. But if all characters of substring 2 matched, then only I can conclude that the character or that substring was present. How to do that? So I say, let it be repeated for the corresponding for loop. Anytime mismatch, come out. Once the for loop is over, so remember that J loop is over here. Once J loop is over, then I check, did J reach up to length 2? If a break will happen, J will never reach to length 2 value. Plus is happening. So length 2 minus 1 up to that J went. Then J was incremented. Now J has become length 2. If it has become length 2 means the string is present. The position at which it is present is being returned. So one position being returned, one position I am getting for the current results. If nothing happens, return will not execute. For loop, I loop will also be over. So corresponding to this, I loop is also over. And if I loop is over and I never got this return statement executed, then return minus 1. If successful, return will execute. I will never reach to this statement. I will never reach to this statement and work like this. For example, now if I say I'm executing the program to have results correspondingly for values, let's say A, B, C, A, D, E, F, A, B, D, E, F, and I'm searching for D, E, F, I will get one occurrence only because I have written the code like this. So main index at index 4. But now whatever code you have written, compare that code with this code, you will find this code to be simple, easy to read, easy to understand, modular, and simple to the maximum extent. Whenever you have a regular increment based, for loop should be used. Whenever you have irregular increment or irregular times loop to be used, use a while loop. If you're using for loop, don't make it complex by putting some extra I, J, K also inside, K variable, L variable, X1, X2. Don't unnecessarily increment. let loop be simply visible how many times it executes. Of course, here, if you do not understand how this logic was made, maybe you can write k here. Maybe you could write k equal to I here. Maybe you can think, okay, I will write here k equal to I. And then here I will write if main string this equal to this, else I will do k plus plus and do like this. Nothing wrong in that. And I can always think to do coding in this format also. So if you do like this, still it is fine. Taking extra variable k doesn't make any loss in complexity, doesn't make any loss in efficiency. So if you don't understand why I was able to write I plus a, you couldn't understand in the first instance, nothing wrong. Think of using a k and then k increment, etc., etc. This is perfectly equally good code. So if you see this, all that can be a good way of solving this programming. Practice all this and learn the good techniques of writing good code. If you are not comfortable with writing functions, no problem. Let this whole code be written in main itself. Doesn't matter. But write readable code. So even if you don't know modularity, fine. Forget about modularity, but never compromise on readability, never compromise on indentation, and modularity you will learn step by step. So if this whole code was written as a part of main also, still perfectly fine. In the main also, if you have written here printf string is present, here you have written printf string is not present, perfectly fine. Still it is okay. So except modularity, all other things you should be able to focus and do well. With this, I will stop the class and stop my lecture here and